Hey everyone, and welcome back to Cinema Sitdown. I'm Icarus, and I'm joined by...
I'm Nolan.
I'm Brady.
I'm Thomas.
I'm Dawson.
Today we watched Bullet Train. It's a 2022 film it's about a lot of stuff. It's about action and violence and fate. We'll get into that a little bit more after this intro. Awesome. What a lovely intro. I feel like we need to give a little bit more credit to the intro. Thanks, Jordan, for making an awesome intro for Cinema Sit Down. Anyways, Bullet Train.
Same outfit.
We're going to do this a little differently than we normally do. Let's not do initial thoughts. Let's do automatic hot takes. What are your hot takes about this movie? So, Nolan, you've seen this before, right?
This is maybe
Several
my
times.
sixth time seeing it. I love this movie.
Yeah.
My hot take, and I feel like this is kind of this is like a lukewarm take. I'm fine with like the Romeo and Juliet switch up with Lemon and Tangerine, where it's like, oh, Lemon's dead, oh no, Tangerine's dead, oh, Lemon's alive, whatever. I'm cool with that. I just wish that Tangerine died in some other way, because he was my favorite character the entire time, and then it was just kind of like, oh, all right, I guess he got deceived and now he's dead, sweet. And if he died in some other way, that was kind of more fitting for the character, I think, then it would have been fine. But it was basically just a tool to reinforce the, what was her name? It was like the Prince or something?
Prince.
Yeah, the Prince.
Yeah, it is bad.
Yeah, it was just...
And that she's just going to get away with
That
it.
she's manipulative.
And we already knew
And
that.
That Ladybug has bad luck.
Yeah.
That's all it did. It didn't, like, support his character, which I feel like his character had so much to give to it. And it just felt a little bit like, well... That sucks.
Yeah, it just sucks that his development was amounting the entire time to further develop two already developed characters instead of giving him a more worthwhile conclusion.
Brady, do you have a hot take? A newcomer to Cinema Sit Down.
Yes, I do. And I don't know how this will go, but I will say, I thought Brad Pitt was too much. I thought like
Really?
his
That
like I
is a
thought
hot
they
His character or him?
No, I thought
being
they were
in it?
trying to like make him too quippy. I thought like I loved this
That's
movie
very fair.
overall, but I thought they were just trying too hard to make him like witty and funny and stuff. And I was just like every time it would like break some kind of tension, I'd be like, geez.
No, I agree. I think there were some moments where it's like, okay, this is a little bit much, because like at first it's like, okay, haha, he's
He's a hippie.
whatever, and like it's kind of part of it, I guess. Like that's kind of the point. Like it's a little bit stupid, but yeah, I think towards the end of the film, it's like just reel it in a little bit,
Yeah.
bring it back. We don't need to do all that. Thomas, hot take.
I'm going to start with a half hot take in that, yeah, I 100% agree
Equal.
with that. I love this movie. I absolutely adore this movie. I love Brad Pitt's character, but I agree that there are a few instances where humor takes precedent when it shouldn't. I forget exactly when, but there's a scene at the end where that 100% happens, where it's like, oh, this is a very serious moment, and Brad Pitt picks that time to just be a silly guy, and it just feels out of place. But my hot take is that I don't think that little mini montage we get of the water bottle is necessary at all. I think that we get plenty of installation in that this movie is all about planting and payoff. You got 1,000 Chekhov's guns everywhere.
Yeah.
That was one thing that we did not need to be reiterated on.
No, that was just a little bit too silly. Like that was one of
the
those moments where it
climax
was
of
like,
the movie. It takes a full minute and a half to establish something that's already been fully established, and did not need to have that moment. It could have been like a shot of him picking it up and being like, ah, yes, water bottle, and then throwing it. We did not need to cut away and have a whole intro card for it as well.
yeah.
It also kind of feels like an ad.
It does feel like an ad
feel like an ad for
Fiji. Yeah, product placements are everywhere in this movie. If you look, they're everywhere. Dawson, did you have a hot take?
Yeah.
Also a newcomer to Cinema Sit Down.
So,
Welcome.
mine was actually related to Carver. I thought that they could have used. They kept mentioning him a lot, but they could have. The only time you really saw him was after they were talking about how he killed, killed the White Wolves, or the
White Death's wife.
Yeah.
wife. And the only time you really saw him on screen was that playback.
It's a little cameo, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of am wishing that they would have used that a lot more, or like giving us a little more insight into the backstory of why he didn't, or why he wasn't, or why Brad Pitt's character was necessarily filling in for him.
Yeah. Like they could have
But-
planted more seeds about that,
Yeah.
and like it's kind of nice that it's like, oh, the big twist. This is why they're all here. Like it wasn't just by it wasn't just by chance that they all ended up
Yeah.
there. They were actually planted there to all kill each other. I also just kind of wish it was literally any other actor. I know there's just something
I
so
feel
cheap
that.
about using what is his name?
Ryan
Reynolds.
Reynolds.
Yeah, I was like, it's not Ryan Gosling.
No.
Ryan Reynolds. Yeah.
I mean,
It just
Ryan
feels
Gosling
silly.
would've
they
been
did
a good
use,
name for
but
him.
for the Wolf, they did use Bad Bunny, so
I
there-
didn't even
there's
know
a-
that was Bad Bunny. Okay, now that I know that, it's like, okay, I guess it's kind of a thing.
I will
this
say,
weird
though-
cameos of people.
Like Ryan Reynolds, I don't know. I feel like I get it. He's like he can be funny, but I don't like the like uncomfortable love that everybody has for him at this point.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Feels very
okay, guys,
foolish.
let's take a step back a little
Yeah.
bit.
He is just another cookie cutter white guy, similarly to Brad Pitt, as well as Channing Tatum, who was also cameoed.
I-
in
The
this
Channing
one.
Tatum part was so
Tatum's
funny
little
though.
cameo.
It is funny.
Is this a bleep thing?
Yeah, it's a little bit, yeah.
And then later on, oh, so this really was a bleep thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, why did I pick this movie for Cinema Sit Down? There's so many things that we just cannot say on PBS. But let's talk a little bit about the whole, I mean, what essentially the entire movie is about. It's not even a theme. It's just this is the plot. Kind of fate versus luck and like overall just karma in general. I wish I had more. I just wrote it down as fate versus luck because that's a thing. What are your guys' thoughts on that and the way they tied that in? Because it's like every little thread that they plant, it leads back to another thing that all kind of makes a circle. Thoughts?
I kind of like it because I think it's very two-sided. The kind of protagonist characters are operating under the guise of luck. Like Ladybug, that name is picked for him because it's like a lucky sign.
Yeah.
And then the whole time it goes back and forth between like this whole thing was orchestrated by fate, this whole thing was orchestrated by people, and whenever the themes are kind of feeling like it's organized by people, it's because the villains are doing it, and whenever the good things are happening to the protagonists, it's because the protagonists are doing it and fate is doing it. But towards the end, whenever it's revealed that like they were all planted there, like we were talking about, that's the White Death's doing, and whenever I can't remember his name, but his son gets pushed off the roof by the prince.
Yeah.
And it's the prince is
It's
doing.
like Yurichi or something.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
every time something like that happens, it's the villains are personified by sort of intervention, and everything else is just fate. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, because that kind of ties in the karma aspect, which is like if you do good, good will come back. And so like obviously the White Death ends up dying in the end, even though he orchestrated this whole thing, he can't outrun fate. And yeah, just like karma, bad karma. You sounded like you were about to say something about that.
Oh no, I mean, covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Like
Thanks.
almost everything I had to say was right there.
Yeah.
Stole my stuff.
My-
But yeah, no, that's about it for me.
Yeah, and so something that I feel like sort of ties into it that I can't exactly, I mean, I can't exactly figure out how it works in my head, but I'm sure one of you smarter people probably will figure it out. There's a lot of emphasis on names and like titles and codenames. I mean, like everyone has a specific codename, and like obviously it's kind of a gimmick that's used, and we got those big flashy title cards. But I feel like it's also a way to reiterate, like you can't escape your own fate, no matter how you change your name, no matter what name you go by, like the codenames, the titles, or whatever. You can't escape what will happen to you anyways. So, did anyone have thoughts on that? Did anyone notice that? Think about that?
Well, I think it's interesting because all of the characters have this title card that they're giving. Like you said, none of them really have names except for another character who has a role is the father.
Yeah.
So it's like the father, the elder, Ladybug, Tangerine,
Yeah.
Lemon. All of them have these code names that is less of a it's less of a name for them and more of a role that they play throughout the movie. So it's like the White Death, he's the bad guy. The prince is, we later find out, the descendant of the bad guy. So it kind of makes sense. You have this king of the castle, and then the prince is kind of trying to undermine it, but is ultimately still sort of pseudo on the same side against the good guys. And I think that the best way I can describe this movie, especially with like the way that information gets portrayed between characters about what is going on, is this movie is essentially a Venn diagram where a bunch of circles are the individual characters and the overlapping bits are the knowledge that they all share, but all of the circles are like ever so slightly moving as they move around and interact with each other. And I think it's really interesting how specifically Brad Pitt's character, like you mentioned, karma, like you do good and good will come back to you. I'm trying to think back, maybe I'm wrong on this. I don't think that Ladybug does a single like inherently bad thing throughout the entire movie. Like he gets in fights, but he never instigates them.
Yeah.
He never directly kills anybody.
He did directly kill Tangerine.
Don't remind me.
Well, okay, it was sort of a, but he did pull the trigger. Like that feels like the most like identifiable.
It's not implied
He
that
killed
he did
him.
though. He didn't shoot him. Because Tangerine was holding the gun and it went off because he was trying to shoot him. So like he did.
I don't know. That felt like he killed
him.
Tangerine.
But
That
he
one
didn't-
felt like he did.
Okay.
The
But
wolf,
yeah.
but
Yeah, and I suppose. Well, okay, but I guess he didn't really
He
kill.
didn't
He
didn't
defending
mean to
with the
kill
briefcase.
anyone
Yeah.
that he killed.
Yeah, it just happened. So I don't know. I agree for the most part. He didn't really do anything bad, but he also like just
Yeah,
caused so
a
much.
lot of bad stuff happened near him. I don't want to be friends with that guy.
Yeah,
I
and
feel
so
like I'll
this.
end up in a buyback.
This kind of brings up my hot take, which I was reserving because I was a little bit worried to say it. But so this is my second like full time watching it. I don't think it's as good as I originally thought it was. I
We'll
think
fight.
the first time
Okay.
I watched it, you get those like kind of shock moments where you realize how the threads are connecting, and it's really interesting on the first watch. This second watch, I think I don't know, I just feel like I don't think it's bad by any means. This is still like an 8 out of 10 movie for me. But I feel like it's just not as good as I once thought. I don't know, I feel like kind of what we were talking about, they rely a little bit too much on weird comedy bits that I just feel like are falling short. Again, Brad Pitt's character as a whole feels a little weird. Like I understand why he's there, but I'm like, again, he never directly kills anyone. He's just the bad luck bringer, and I get that it's an important point in the plot, but I don't know, it just feels a little silly to me. I will say, cinematography, very, very good. I really, really like it. The editing as well. There's a lot of cool transitions. There's one, and it sticks out in my brain. It's when Tangerine is walking off the train. It starts upside down, and as we transition to who he's talking to, it slowly straightens out. It's upright. That really, really good. There's a lot of long tracking shots that I think are really good. Obviously, you got the cool colored lights, which we've discussed at length prior to watching it. But I don't think they're done in an egregious manner. I think it fits the setting and the story, and there's kind of a neon element that comes through in the title cards and the train. I think it works with the setting. But yeah, do you guys have opinions? I know I just dropped a hot take and then tried to cover it up with a bunch of stuff.
I think you're right
Yeah.
about it, because whenever I first saw it, I was like, that movie was awesome. But then the entire time leading up, you talking about the threads and stuff, it definitely kind of feels like it's a little more told to you than shown.
Yeah.
Like at the whenever it gets to the point where things are revealed, you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And then you watch it again looking for signs of that, and you don't really find it until it's just told to you. Which kind of sucks. I wish that there were little hints throughout it, but there are a couple.
There are a couple, and the one. So you mentioned earlier. This is your 6th time watching it.
Yeah.
This
like
is for me.
fifth or
This is
sixth.
watch 5. I want to say.
Yeah.
I love this. Is in my top 5 movies. But something I didn't pick up is there's a lot of things that have to do with premonition in particular, and one that I had never noticed before is there's a conversation towards the start of the movie where Lemon and Tangerine are talking about. He's like, oh, you still got the vest on? He goes, oh, no, why would I bother with it? I could still get shot in the neck. And then he says, oh, well, if you get shot in the chest, you'd be alive. Which is them telling each other their fates, essentially. And I think elements like that are really cool, because that one in particular is not directly, mentioned again.
Yeah.
I think that, I agree with you
Just
100%.
shown, which is...
If it's just subtly mentioned for the audience and you don't think of it until, again, makes a rewatch much more enjoyable, because for me, I can pick up on things like that after seeing it a few times.
Definitely.
And not having it directly hand-fed to me.
Yeah, and let me kind of go back. There are definitely some things that are good. on your second watch, you're being like, oh, there's the water bottle, like stuff like that. Even though we kind of already talked about the water bottle scene a little bit, or the water bottle sequence. But like so much of it is there's so much callback. There's so many callbacks that do work, and there's so many that don't, and that's just kind of a problem. But also, I don't care because this movie has so much sauce. Like, it's just so cool, and it stands out so starkly against other action movies because it looks like something, and that's something that not a lot of action movies do anymore. It's like our direction, like our art direction, is going to be just really cool fights or really cool guns or like sequences where the camera does something weird, and those movies can still be good, but a movie like this, an action movie like this, just doesn't happen often. Like something that just looks this cool, has this much personality, it stands out a lot, and that's why I've seen it so many times.
No,
just because there's not action like it.
I agree that like the characters have personality, and again, I still think it's a really good movie. I just said I'm not as enamored with it as I was on the first watch.
I will say, when this movie first came out and I saw ads for it, I thought it looked awful.
I had the exact
it
opposite.
looked terrible.
I saw the trailer. I remember the very first day I saw the trailer, and I said, I need to see this movie. I'm going to love it.
Well,
and I was perfectly right.
The thing about it, I guess, is just that I at that point I was in the midst of like my big like getting mad at like
Big budget movies.
like big budget like
Yeah.
superhero cinema, and I watched that ad and
That's
I was like, man, this just has like all the quippiness of Brad Pitt's character in that trailer. I was just like, oh my god.
No, for sure. There's a bit of the Marvel infection that in this film, and like the
Serious
humor.
things
Yeah,
must be funny somehow.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah.
I will say it was way better than I thought it would be. Like it's beautiful, and but also I don't know how much it'll stick with me. I don't think I'll like find myself thinking back on it too often, which is a little sad because I thought it was cool, but I don't know. It was a good movie, and I think I agree with you probably about like an 8 out of 10 on that for me. But yeah.
Yeah. While we're kind of getting towards the end, do you guys have a favorite scene, even just moment? It doesn't have to be a full scene that you guys want to share. We can start at this end if we want.
I think for me, one of my favorite scenes was kind of the ending, or not the main ending one, but the one before that, where the train goes flying over the side of the mountain. I thought that was really cool just to see like how the train ends up slowing down, and then when they cut to like the characters inside the train like trying to hang on, how you see most of them like hanging on, and then Brad Pitt's just slowly
motion sequence of him just
through the middle,
flying past all the other
Yeah,
He's
characters
hit with
still
a
on the
tea
train.
kettle.
I guess that because that was one of the ones for me, and the other one was probably the it was probably the fact that like when they showed it, or when they showed him trying to slow it down, and they showed the spark, and you're like, oh, it's gonna like slow down or anything, and then it's just and it just pulls everything.
sure.
Like I do.
No, that's good for sure.
Yeah.
I gotta pass it off. I gotta think some more.
Okay.
I had so many.
This one.
Yeah.
This one
Yeah.
here.
No, for sure.
Where
That's
or I
in the
guess
contenders for me, so I'll change my answer based on that.
Where Tangerine gets left at the station after the briefcase incident, and he's like, you know what? I'm not staying off this train, and he uses brass knuckles, right?
Yeah.
To,
Or
Just
just
a lot of
rings.
rings. He just has a lot of
I was
rings
gonna say
on the thing.
I couldn't remember if it was
on the
rings or brass
poster,
knuckles.
He's got brass knuckles, and he's doing a fist it looks really silly in the poster. He's doing a fist that's like towards
So maybe
the
he
camera.
does have brass knuckles.
And it looks like brass knuckles, but we never get an acknowledgement of the
Yeah.
brass knuckles at any other point, other than that one scene where he's punching it.
Yeah.
He's just like,
But he
and that's his whole pose.
jumps onto a moving train, not just a train, a bullet train.
Yeah. Very fast.
Yeah, and
Very
punches
smooth.
through the glass. This guy's awesome. This guy is
It's
so
just-
cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Kind of run out of time.
I was just gonna say my favorite thing in this entire movie was the Thomas thing. I thought that was so fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was so fun.
I was a big fan of that show when I was a kid, so it was nice to get some of the understand the reference, but also have it explained. I thought was really nice.
Yeah. You?
Man, I think Man, this is hard. I think it's similarly the scene right before he jumps on the train, which is kind of encompassing the same thing, where Brad Pitt is stalling him at the train. He goes, and that door is closing, and kicks him off. Is so cool. I don't know. Every time I get a little happy smile. Like,
Yeah.
that was cool. And then he runs and jumps on the train. He's awesome. Great character. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I also like that. I like when Lemon and Ladybug do their little fights thing.
That's
because
also, yeah.
the scene of Lemon just grabbing onto the chairs and then just drop kicking some people through a door. I just love Lemon's character, I think, as a whole. But that's kind of all we have time for. Let us know what you guys thought about Bullet Train. I hope you've watched it, because if not, the entire movie has just been spoiled. Oh no, we got cut off air. That's okay. That's it. Yeah, we got it. We're out of time. Bye, guys. See you later.